Valkyrin hit the deck first, but Carrick landed harder boot thrusters too slow, shoulder plating taking the brunt. Magnetic clamps screamed against the hull as both men skidded across the jagged surface of the derelict. They weren't alone anymore. The signal had summoned something. Not Dominion. Not human. Something older. Something designed for the kind of silence that eats ships whole. It slid from the black like oil poured into zero-grav segment by segment, limbs folding and unfolding in silence, like a broken god remembering how to walk. Valkyrin's visor flooded with warnings and glyphs no Ratesh system ever used. Some ancient root protocol buried in his implants code that belonged to neither side of this war. His pulse spiked, but his hand stayed steady on the rifle. Fear was a luxury they couldn't afford this far out. Carrick's voice crackled over squad comms, breath sharp. "What the fuck is that?" The thing didn't answer. It didn't need to. The hull groaned beneath them, metal turning soft where it touched, alloys rewriting themselves at the molecular level, folding into the creature's form like flesh into scar tissue. A third figure hit the deck behind them, Drexel, still sealing his suit, plasma cutter already hot in his grip. His helmet polarized as his eyes locked onto the shifting mass ahead. "We light it up or run?" Valkyrin's voice came cold and flat. "If it was Dominion, we could run. If it was human, we could fight. This thing..." The creature stopped folding, stopped shifting. It looked at them. Not with eyes, but with every surface, the entire body a sensor array, scanning, tasting, learning. Then it spoke in soundless compression bursts, directly into Valkyrin's skull through the compromised implants. "Welcome, traveler. You carry our seed. We have waited for your return." Carrick saw Valkyrin freeze, rifle slack in his grip. "What's it saying?" Valkyrin's breathing hollowed out. "It thinks I'm one of them." Drexel's plasma cutter flared brighter. "That's gonna be a fucking problem." The creature took a step forward, if you could call that motion a step, and the hull underfoot liquefied for a moment, dragging the trio half a meter closer. Symbiosis wasn't a concept here. This was consumption through familiarity. It wasn't trying to merge. It was trying to finish what it started, millennia ago, before the war even had a name. Valkyrin tore off his helmet, cables sparking where his implants resisted the interface. He locked eyes, what was left of his Ratesh optics, on Carrick and Drexel. "You can't kill this." Drexel's grip tightened on the cutter. "Then what the hell do we do?" The creature answered for him. The hull split open beneath their feet, and the vacuum didn't come for them. The creature held the air inside, a localized gravity well forming like the mouth of a god swallowing. Valkyrin grinned like a man already dead. "We go in." No time for votes. The floor dropped. They fell, and the war got smaller behind them. Next move? Does Carrick trust Valkyrin inside the creature? What's waiting inside the ancient biomechanical Leviathan? What hidden protocol triggers in Valkyrin's implants once full contact is made? "You set the course. I'll drive the knife deeper." They plunged through the gaping maw, swallowed into a throat made of shipwreck skin and alien marrow, tumbling end over end in 0G until inertia gave up on them. Carrick hit first, backslamming into something soft that wasn't soft at all. His suit sensors flickered, confused by the material, reading both solid and liquid, alive and inert. Drexel followed, cutter spitting sparks that the air swallowed before they could bloom. Valkyrin landed last, too easy, too familiar, like the creature knew his shape. The chamber sealed itself around them, walls writhing in slow undulation. Lights? No phosphorescent nerves, pulsing pale and dark like a breath too shallow to catch. Carrick ripped off his helmet, sucking in the air damp, copper-sweet tinged with something metallic and fungal all at once. "Where the hell are we?" Drexel's voice sounded small in the dark, even with the cutter humming like an angry promise in his hands. Valkyrin didn't answer. He stood perfectly still, head cocked, eyes glassy. Listening. Carrick grabbed his shoulder hard enough to crack armor plating. "Hey! Stay with me, Ratesh." "What's in your head?" Valkyrin's mouth twitched, halfway to a smile, halfway to a scream. "They remember me. Or something like me. They think I'm a key. A missing tooth in their jaw. Drexel took a step back, cutter lifted. I'll cut that key out of you if it gets us free. Valkyrin barely heard him. His mind was filling up memories that weren't his, weapons built from extinct species, wars fought in silence between entities that never needed flesh to bleed. They were before language, before metal, before thought needed form. And now they were awake because he was here, walking meat carrying their lost code. Stop talking like you're them. Carrick's voice cut in sharp. You're not a key. You're not a goddamn prophet. You're Valkyrin. The bastard who saved my ass twice and shot me once. Remember? That pulled him back. The flicker of now. The gravity of real people, real skin. Yeah, Valkyrin rasped. I remember. But the walls remembered more. They shifted, pulling apart to reveal shapes held in suspension figures half-digested, frozen in looping acts of violence and surrender. Human. Ratesh. Dominion. Others with forms too warped to name. Each one preserved as a fragment of some ancient, unfinished conversation. This place eats history and spits out memory. Drexel's knuckles went white on the cutter. This thing, it's a library. Valkyrin shook his head. No. It's a grave. Carrick moved first, hauling Valkyrin forward by his collar. Then we move like we're walking on bones. The floor responded, rippling beneath their boots, pulling them deeper into the ship's gut. No doors. No hatches. Just pathways that opened when Valkyrin got close, the ship tasting him through his implants, recognizing corrupted kin. Drexel's breath came fast, raw under his helmet. This thing knows us. It knows everything we've done. If it decides we're worth keeping, it won't have to decide. Valkyrin cut him off. It already owns me. Carrick spun him around, slamming him into the wall hard enough to trigger shock dampeners. Then why the hell did we follow you in here? Give me one reason not to vent you right now. Valkyrin's grin came back, teeth bloody where he'd bitten his tongue on the fall. Because I know what it wants. Drexel's cutter hummed louder. Spit it out. It doesn't want to kill us. Valkyrin's voice dropped lower, almost reverent. It wants us to finish what it started. To rebuild what broke. Humans, Radish Dominion, were all leftovers from its first war. Carrick let go, chest heaving, hands shaking. And what if we refuse? The wall behind Valkyrin split open, revealing a figure stitched from parts human arm, Ratesh's spine, a face half smooth metal and half raw nerve. Its eyes snapped open, voice pouring from its broken throat. Then you will become part of the memory. Drexel fired the cutter. Carrick drew his sidearm. Valkyrin just stood there, smiling at the thing wearing his face. I'm ready to pull the trigger. What happens next? Valkyrin's smile didn't belong to him. Carrick saw it and felt something split, not the wall, not the floor, something between them. A hairline crack running straight down the truss that held their boots pointed in the same direction. Drexel's plasma cutter spat another blast, burning through the hybrid creature's shoulder, molten metal and cooked flesh dripping into the pulsing floor. It didn't scream. It just watched. Like pain was a translation error. Carrick's sidearm stayed up, shaking slightly. That smile. That's not yours. Who the hell are you right now? Valkyrin's voice came filtered 2 layers deep, one his, one older. I'm the only thing keeping this place from learning your bones. Drexel barked a laugh, sharp enough to cut. Bullshit. You didn't lead us in here to save us. You led us here because it called you home. The floor shifted again, pulling them forward without asking. The ship wanted them to keep moving deeper into the archive of corpses, the unfinished war museum welded from flesh and tech. Each step lit new displays, human ships split down the spine, Ratesh dreadnoughts hollowed into reefs, Dominion biotech shriveled like dried muscle. Every side lost. Every side remembered. Shut up, Carrick snapped, voice too loud in the damp air. We need each other to get out. Drexel's cutter stayed hot. No. You need me. He belongs to this thing now. Valkyrin's face twitched, his hand drifting toward his sidearm before he caught himself. You think I wanted this? His voice was his again, raw, angry, alive. I didn't build these implants. I didn't ask to carry their goddamn map in my head. Drexel took a step closer, barrel nearly touching Valkyrin's chest plate. But you hit it. For how long? Days? Weeks? Since you stepped off that Radesh destroyer waving your surrender like it was clean? Carrick cut between them, palms up, voice sharp. Not now. You can kill each other after we make it out. Valkyrin's mouth opened, but before words could form, the signal hit. It knifed through every helmet, every implant, every frequency, a burst transmission from outside the ship. No encryption, no source, just a single sentence screaming into their skulls. REMEEBERTHESEVEEPROTOCOL. Drexel froze. Valkyrin paled. Carrick just stared, jaw tight. Seventh protocol's a myth, Carrick said, voice low. We all heard the stories. No records. No orders. Just whispers from crews that never came back. Valkyrin shook his head, eyes wild now. It's not a myth. It's the last failsafe. If contact is made with pre-extinction entities, Drexel finished the sentence for him, voice like stone cracking. All surviving ships trigger a full-burn sterilization of the sector. Carrick's stomach dropped through his boots. That's why they left this derelict alone. They knew what it was. They knew it wasn't just some ghost ship. Valkyrin stepped back, the crack between him and the others widening into a trench. You think they won't burn us too? Drexel's grip tightened on the cutter. They'll hit the button and never blink. Especially if they know you're compromised. Valkyrin's fingers flexed, reaching for a weapon, then stopping because his hands knew too much, too many systems answering to him now, the ship itself listening through him. I didn't choose this. Carrick's voice dropped, softer than gunfire, but sharper than a knife. Then choose now. Another step forward, into the dark. The walls pulsed faster, sensing fracture, tasting betrayal like blood in the water. And behind it all, the seventh signal kept pulsing, getting closer. A fleet? A drone? An execution order with engines? Whatever it was already en route. The fractures wide open. Now what? Does Valkyrin sever his implants, cutting off his link to the ship but blinding them all in the process? Does Drexel make his move, trying to end the liability before command ends them all? Does Carrick bet everything on trust, knowing the next few minutes decide if they live or burn? Tell me who breaks first, and I'll write the fallout. Carrick moved first, but not toward Valkyrin. His hand slammed into the nearest bulkhead, fingers digging into a seam they hadn't even noticed before, and the wall opened. Not like a hatch. Like a vein splitting open. The ship hadn't just been listening. It had been waiting. Light flared from the breach, not white, not gold, something between both, like metal bleeding sunlight. Inside that vein wasn't machinery. It was a body. Human-shaped. But only if you started counting bones and gave up halfway. Part human, part Raytesh, part something none of them could name. Its chest pulsed in time with the walls. Its arms were wired into the bulkhead. Its face, half skull, half mask, half mirror, spoke without moving. SEVENTHPROTOLISWRONG THENEMYISALREADYINSIDE. Carrick staggered back. Drexel's cutter shook in his grip. Valkyrin fell against the opposite wall, implants firing blind signals into the dark. Who the hell are you? Carrick demanded. The thing blinked a slow, mechanical flicker across all four of its eyes. I am the first to survive contact. I am the last to remember the cost. Valkyrin's voice rasped from the floor. What cost? The wall pulsed faster, that bright vein spreading into the ceiling, showing more bodies locked in place, human, Radesh, Dominion, something older. The voice answered without hesitation. The cost of mercy. Drexel raised his cutter, but the wall beside him spoke too, a second voice layered over the first. Seventh Protocol didn't burn this ship because they feared it. They didn't burn it because they couldn't. This ship is immune. It absorbed the fire, and it learned to wear it. Carrick's stomach nodded. You're saying this whole wreck is alive because they tried to kill it? The light flickered. No. It's alive because they tried to save it. Valkyrin's implants lit up like a sunburst. His voice came half his, half theirs. Seventh Protocol wasn't a sterilization command. It was a rescue attempt. The walls moved, not just pulsing but reaching. Sections of the floor peeled upward into shapes, fingers, limbs, faces. Carrick saw someone he knew, a crewmate from 3 years back, lost in a raid. Drexel saw someone too, a commander from his first post, dead before his second deployment. The ship remembered every soul who ever touched it. And then the transmission hit again, but this time it wasn't from the fleet. It was from the ship itself. SEVENTHPROTOANGAGAD. THEENEMYISYOU. Every weapon system on the wreck lit up at once, not outward, but inward. Targeting the crew. Targeting itself. Carrick's breath caught in his throat. Drexel whispered something too soft to hear. Valkyrin's eyes went wide, implants burning through his skin. They thought they were inside a derelict ship. They were inside a living execution order. One question answered: who triggered the Seventh Protocol? The ship itself. 2 more waiting. What did mercy cost? And can they survive being the enemy? Next move's yours. Do they run? Hack the ship? Bargain with it? Or face the truth head-on?